What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, and the 863 tribe? Oh man, here we are back at it with another one. And this time we got the mighty Clemson Tigers, but in the game, they don't look so mighty, do they? 2-4 Clemson against number 5 Florida State, and hopefully the audio's good this time around. As the last video, didn't realize the audio messed up on me until after I recorded the whole thing. That's why you got the voice over. But go ahead and do me a favor, y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to share the videos. Let's check out the top 25. Let's check out the Heisman race, and then let's get to playing Clemson. And today's topic of the video will be, since we are playing Clemson, it will be, can FSU close the gap with the Clemson Tigers? Let's get to the top 25 first. And you see we moved up into the top 5. Ohio State still 1, A&M still 2, Michigan, Tennessee. Gotta say, man, that's a top 5 for you right there. Mississippi State is even in the top. Well, they're undefeated, top 6. Kansas State, where Trayshawn Ward is at. Remember, he was on the Heisman list last week. Let's see if he's still on there. They 6-0. North Carolina. You'll see Miami. As you can see, believe it or not, no Georgia, no Bama. That's crazy. That is crazy. Let's get to this Heisman. Trey Benson, man. Jordan Travis, after having a 4 interception game last week, has fell off. But Trey Benson has risen all the way to number 2 in the Heisman. And Trayshawn Ward, man, he's still lurking. Let's take a look real quick. Trayshawn Ward has 590 yards rushing so far in the season, 4.9 a carry, 8 touchdowns. Benson has 442, 6 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns. And let's just see what the boy from Michigan got. Ooh! He's doubling in yardage. He is doubling. Man got 827. He might just probably gonna win it, but at least Trey Benson's in the mix. He's in the mix. But all right, man, let's not waste no more time. Let's get to this game. Florida State and Clemson. All right, now here we go. Clemson is not the same Clemson that we've been dealing with. They are 2-4. But we'll see how the game plays out, man. But speaking of Clemson, and we're going to go a little fast pace. Is Clemson, I see, on the game, is it a coincidence, like on the game, that Clemson taking a step back now? In real life, they're not going to take a 2-4 step back. I don't think anybody believes that. But I do think a valid question is, do they take a step back, and how far do they take said step back? It's an interesting conversation to have. Clemson, Jesus, trying to say Clemson is fast. Clemson is in an interesting position that I don't quite remember the last time they were in this type of position, where, I mean, they just have a lot of questions. I can't think of a valid playmaker on the outside for them. They have Shipley, but he's legitimately one guy on the offensive side of the ball. I think they lose. Now, obviously, I'm not a Clemson fan, so I don't know all the answers, so to speak. Let's go, Gene Bell. Touchdown, Seminoles. But like I was saying, man, if I'm not mistaken, I think they lose some of their better offensive linemen, which, in my opinion, wasn't great to begin with. But may have been one of the better O-lines they've had in recent years. They lose the defensive line again. to their credit, they have been one of the programs that they've been able to reload on D-line, not have to rebuild, right? So the question becomes, are they indeed reloading again? Secondary wasn't great last year because they were young. The question is going to be, are they better this year? And at the end of it all is going to be Cade Klubnik. Is he the next great Clemson quarterback? DJ failed at that conquest. Is Cade going to bring back the likes of Lawrence, Watson, Boyd? And ultimately, man, those are the questions that, I mean, Clemson fan, by the off chance, you know, Clemson fan is watching, answer those questions for me in the comment section. I mean, my guess would be, I know it'd be a biased response, I'm sure, because we're fans at the end of the day. But definitely y'all would have a better pulse on some of those questions that are being asked. Regardless of what the answer to those questions are, just the fact I think that you're answering those or you're asking those questions shows that Clemson may be vulnerable this year. I don't even think maybe, they probably are. I think Clemson is about as vulnerable as they've been in a while. From everywhere from staff turnover to player turnover. And I think Clemson is in a prime position to be taken, to be beat. Finally, right? We haven't been able to crack that nut in a while, right? And for good reason, man. We had our worst years while Clemson was really hitting their stride, right? And now the interesting question, it becomes, is Clemson back down to earth? Are they vulnerable? I think the answer to some of that might be yes. Now, Clemson made an interesting hire this offseason by hiring Lincoln Riley's brother, who was the offensive coordinator for TCU this past year. I don't know if it's a slam dunk hire that everybody's pretending it is. We have this habit, and not only college football, but football in general, where we get in love with names, and you hear names and just automatically think success. And I don't know if Riley, the brother of Lincoln Riley, can't remember his first name. I don't know if you can pencil him in for like automatically being this offensive guru because his brother is, or even what he did at a TCU, which, you know, I always tell you about those Big 12 and Pac-12 teams, right? Offensive numbers can get skewed heavily. I do think, though, that's a good hire. I do think it's if he is who he's supposed to be, then yeah, it's a good one, but no different than any other coach or any other program. I don't know if Clemson fans should expect instant success from a guy in Cade who's going to be learning another playbook this year. And I really just say all this to say I think Clemson's extremely vulnerable this year. From what I've seen from Klubnik, I actually think he's a good quarterback. The question would be how good? What level is he? You know, is he just a competent starter, or is he the next superstar in the ACC, so to speak? Not so sure on either one of those questions. You know, and what makes this so interesting is Clemson enters the season, I think, with all those questions, all those legitimate questions. And the other team that we're talking about, obviously, the Noles, they enter this season. Well, I'm not going to say they have all the answers, but there's drastically less questions across the board for Florida State. We know who the quarterback... We know, like we said in the last episode, in the last video, versus Notre Dame, we pretty much know damn near every position on the team. Now the hope is that the younger guys can come in and push, the penciled in starters. But at a minimum, we know Robert Scott's the left tackle. We know Jordan Travis is the quarterback. We know Trey Benson's the running back. We know Johnny Wilson's wide receiver number 1. You feel me? Like we know. We know Jaheim Bell's gonna be the guy to start the season at tight end. FSU enters this season with way less questions. As you see Johnny Wilson wide open. Let's go. And in a lot of ways, I look at Clemson very similar to how I looked at LSU starting the season last year, where I was like, if you can't beat LSU, remember what I was saying, like if you can't beat Brian Kelly with the brand new LSU team, hit that like button as we start this second quarter. But like I was saying, if you can't beat Brian Kelly with all the new things that was going on there at LSU, I mean, you weren't gonna beat them, right? You weren't gonna beat them. And I think you have to look at it in a similar way this year with Clemson and Florida State. If you can't beat Clemson coming into a year where they have a lot of questions and you're bringing back all the answers, when are you going to beat them? As of February 2023, like, you have the better quarterback. You have the better receiver room. You probably have the better O-line. I mean, only thing, Shipley's that guy. I won't take anything away from Will Shipley. I would say at a minimum, you have at least a better pass rush. We'll see what that defensive line, again, because that is a team that they don't rebuild on the defensive line. They legitimately reload. So I'm curious to see who are the guys that they have waiting in the wings there. But I got to think that, like, at a minimum, you at least got the better pass rush. Let's go, Shaheem. I mean, do we have a better secondary? I mean, those are questions that I'm not sure, because I think a lot of Florida State fans are going to want to see the growth of the secondary. I would argue that our linebackers are maybe a wash. They have bigger names because of high school recruiting, but I think in terms of play, I'm not so sure they're better than what we got. Let's go Trey Benson, baby. Let's go. And for me, man, that is why the ACC is of the utmost importance this year. I know people, and Florida State fans, I think people just like to be different, man. Legitimately, I think people just like to be different. And FSU fans continue to try to have the argument of what's the most important game, LSU or Clemson. Honestly, guys, I think I'd be sparking these conversations because I'm the one who came out there and flat out said it's Clemson or bust. It's Clemson or bust next year, right? And I feel like people heard me say that and they wanted to spin off that conversation and have their own discussion about it, which is fine. But all these things and reasons is why it's Clemson or bust. At what point do you take the ACC back? If not now. As of right now, I think most people will look at LSU as the tougher opponent. In year 2 under Kelly, they had a good season even in year 1. Right? And no one's saying Clemson's not talented. No one's saying Clemson is going to completely fall off a cliff. But you're catching them at a moment where if Florida State's team is supposed to be the team that everyone expects, well, when do you close that? When you bridge that gap, man? When do we get over that hump that is Clemson and get back into the ACC? And this might sound crazy, but I personally, I'm more concerned. Me personally, I'm more concerned with the ACC than the playoff. And I know that might sound crazy, but that's just because of my expectation. I believe that the playoffs, I mean, and there's outliers, man. There's exceptions to every rule. I believe personally, he fumbled. I don't think that the playoffs happen overnight. I don't believe the playoffs happen overnight. So if I'm being completely clear with what I'm about to say, I'm not saying FSU doesn't have a chance at the playoffs. I'm not saying that the playoffs shouldn't be I'm not saying playoffs shouldn't be the goal. You try to win championships, I'm all for it. Specifically speaking on my expectation, the playoffs for me, that's just icing on the case if at all possible. That's just icing on the case. That's just icing on the cake. As Jordan Travis goes for 73, man, we are destroying Clemson in this one. So like I was saying, I think the playoff is icing on the cake. The playoff is the real playoffs icing on the cake. The ACC is, because let's face it, right? We can all agree the ACC isn't some strong, amazing conference. It's top heavy like most. You got a few good teams at the top, a bunch of average teams and bad teams at the bottom, right? If you're not at the top of a conference like the ACC, in my opinion, the playoffs aren't even a conversation. You feel me? And that's where I'm at on this whole what's more important, LSU or Clemson. Right, but I stand on that. Like, if you can't even be the best team in a conference like the ACC, I'm not so sure why. I'm not so sure why playoffs is even in the conversation, man. I want to take care of this ACC. Now, would I love to? Absolutely, man. Like, I'm not acting like I don't want to be in the playoffs. Absolutely. But I don't think you make the playoffs unless you're beating Clemson. Right? I think that's the disconnect. Beat LSU all you want, man. You can beat LSU all you want. If you're not going to beat Clemson, you're not going to be in there. And the real only justifiable reason the only reason I can kind of get behind what LSU's like this game of importance is the notion that you get 2 cracks at them. And because you get 2 cracks at them, you know, in theory, you can lose one. You can split the games and really still be in a position to not only win the ACC, but also be in the college football playoff, right? But I do think the people that are the LSU's are more important. They're banking on the playoff. With me, I just want to hold up. I want to take back the ACC. Take back the ACC, man, and we can have a question or a conversation about the rest of this. Take back the ACC like we're doing in this game. 42 points in the first half. 9 seconds to go here in the first half, and I pretty much have laid out, you know, this Clemson and Florida State thing going into this season. Why it's important for Florida State and how Clemson looks vulnerable on paper. But we'll be right back after halftime. What's going on, y'all? We back after halftime. It's been a domination. It's been a destruction. It's been a violation of the Clemson Tigers in every aspect. It's 42-3. Klubnik's been struggling as he just should have threw another pick. And Jordan Travis has been balling out of control. But if we pick the conversation back up on, the importance of this game. And, I mean, we kind of hit the nail on it, man, with all this Clemson stuff. The only, for a Clemson fan, I think they have a lot of questions whether they'll admit it or not. I think Clemson fans are somewhat confident because they still recruit at a solid level, but I think even in recruiting, you can kind of look and go, oh man, some of these guys are coming back. Clemson's kind of coming back to the pack, so to speak, even on the recruiting trail. FSU, man, Mike Norvell and company, as Pat gets another sack. He's got 5 in the school record. Man, just set the school record. Pat Payton, let's go. So yeah, man, I really don't. I want to talk about Clemson because this was the game, But I really have no more left on this particular conversation. So get in those comments and let me know, man. What do y'all think? Y'all think Clemson? I don't know. I know the fan base is split, right? But my first question would be LSU or Clemson? Who's more important? And then just getting away from that particular conversation, is Clemson vulnerable this year? Do you feel that Clemson is ripe for the picking? You know, and if not this year, I mean, what year? I would ask. But don't forget to hit the like button, man. As always, hit the like, subscribe, and get in them comment sections, man. And let's have that discussion on anything. But you know, let's try to stick to the topic of this video. But do feel free to pose questions, maybe topics I can do in the future as we continue this series. Feel free to do that. So moving on in this conversation, as we move on from Clemson, let's move on to just the ACC as a whole and the expectation there. And the one team in the ACC that I am really looking forward to watching, because I think they got a dude for real, a potential like top quarterback pick. I am legitimately looking to see North Carolina and how good they are this year. When you got Drake May, you can't waste Drake May. And unlike Sam Howell, I think Drake May is a legit NFL prospect. Never thought that about Howell. Right, I always felt like Howell was a solid college quarterback, but never saw the transition to the next level in Sam Howell personally. That's not the case with Drake May. And because that's not the case with Drake May, I'm extremely interested in watching North Carolina. I think the expectation is Florida State. Clemson's a given in the ACC championship. And my question is, I don't know. I don't know how accurate that is. North Carolina's going to have to shore up things like defense and the trenches and things like that. But that's why I'm interested to see what exactly North Carolina looks like, man. Because, like I said, you got a Drake May. In my opinion, you can't waste that. And so I'm curious to know North Carolina. I think they could be a dark horse in the ACC. Oh my God, I tried to go a game without a pick and I just can't do it. Just can't go a game without an interception for some reason. I always find a way to intercept me. But like I was saying, yeah, North Carolina for me. In terms of a dark horse, I'll be honest, outside of North Carolina and the two favorites, I have a hard time seeing. I really have a hard time seeing, you know, who else in this conference takes the step, because I'm looking at a lot of teams in the past couple years. They benefited drastically from that COVID year. I mean, you had just at quarterback position at the likes of North Carolina State and Clemson. Not Clemson, I'm sorry, but Wake Forest. And all of these quarterbacks are gone. Some of the NC State's big time defense from the last couple of years. Well, all those guys are gone too now. All of these players, man, who are 5-6 year college players. Oh, that's a terrible pass. What? He wasn't even in the vicinity. Come on, man. Bruh, that just pissed me off. It's one thing when I make a bad decision, I got it. But when I feel like the game starts gaming me and making me do things that I didn't try to do, that's when I get aggravated. I don't even remember what I was talking about. That's how much that just pissed me off, that particular play. think we were talking about the rest of the ACC. And how I low-key feel like every team in that conference took a step back. And I mean, if you have a dark horse team in the ACC that you think might surprise or going to be better than expected, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Yeah, put it in the comments, man, because I really don't see it. As you see, man, we putting the second string out here. I went second string offense and defense, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, man, I am again interested to see. Who might be a sneaky team in the ACC. Again, I don't necessarily see it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, Duke, I guess, would be the one team that if I had some questions, could they be better? Maybe Duke. I think, but it's Duke. I say all that to say it's still Duke. And a 7-8 win Duke team is great for Duke, but what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? I'm not sure it means anything. Touchdown. And then you got Miami. But we'll do a whole video on Miami when we actually play them, obviously. Why is Pat still in the game? I mean, but y'all know just the quick thoughts on Miami. Like, come on. That team's in shambles. We talked about Clemson. I mean, NC State's bringing the Virginia quarterback to kind of try to replace. I mean, I don't know. Like, in theory, I guess that's an okay move. Yeah, in theory, like, that's an okay move. But Virginia was so terrible last year, and he was the quarterback for all of that. Like, how good is that dude really? Like, seriously. The Armstrong kid out of Virginia. Like, I'm a firm believer that, like, a quarterback changes. A good quarterback, a legit good quarterback, automatically should get you a bowl game. Automatically should get, at least you should get a bowl game with a good quarterback. In my humble opinion, Virginia was legit one of the worst teams in all of college football last year, and that's with this quarterback. And now you're telling me that all of a sudden he's going to go to NC State and he's going to be the goods? Again, man, I look at the ACC and look, I am not impressed or worried about too much of anything in this conference. There are, I think, two good teams / really good teams with at least the talent to be really good or great in Florida State and Clemson. Then I think you have the quarterback at North Carolina that elevates that team to, I don't know how good they are, but if you got that guy, North Carolina should be able to make some noise. Then you have the other Carolina school in Duke, where you go, okay, they had a good season in year one. I guess we expect them to continue off that momentum. We'll see. It doesn't always work like that. Remember what Michigan State did after their 10-win year one under your boy. I forget his name off the top of my head, but y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. So there's no guarantee Duke's gonna continue to ride that wave. And again, it's Duke, so it wouldn't shock me if Duke fell off. Personally, damn it. And then when you get past those four schools, bro. When you get past those 4 schools, now the only other school I can think of that is an interesting school is Louisville. Louisville's got a new head coach who's the former quarterback for them. Bro. Let's go. Louisville has recruited effectively to their. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, and I haven't looked it up. Is Cunningham coming back? And if not, who is the quarterback? I don't know who the quarterback is replacing him. And even with all of that, like I was saying about Louisville, I still think they fall into the average category, and that's where I would put like the next teams on the list. Right, you go to the top 4 like we did, and then the next ones I think would be like Louisville and Pitt. And then after Louisville and Pitt, Miami's and the NC States and the Wake Forests. You talk about a team that I have no idea what they are. Wake Forest is losing so much guys offensively that they've banked on these last few years with those receivers and the quarterback. They could take a plunge, right? Like I don't think Wake Forest is in the whole reloading stage. They could definitely take a plunge, and he overthrew that. Come on. And so there's just a ton of questions, man, that I don't know if there's a ton of answers to when you talk about this conference as a whole. And again, this is why, in my humble opinion, Clemson is key. This is a lackluster conference. Let's win it. FSU is arguably fielding their best team since 2017. Now, I know how the 2017 season turned out. They were preseason top 3. Wasn't it 1 versus 2 or whatever against Florida State and Bama? Like, that team had the guys on it. And because of that, you're fielding your most anticipated team since then. Get this last touchdown. I just need to take care of the ACC, man. Take care of the ACC. And with all that said, man, we talked about Clemson. We talked about the outlook of the ACC. Again, finally, hit the like button. Subscribe. Share the videos. We just mollywopped Clemson 70-17. And I might have to adjust the sliders because we're reaching a new level of domination here. But yeah, man, hit the like button. Thank you guys for coming in, tuning in. What you think about today's conversation? Get in those comment sections, man. Let's have let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about what y'all thinking. And yeah, this your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Y'all already know the deal. Stay classy. And I am out here. Go Noles.